Welcome back to Hillbilly Pillars and my rundown slash ranking of Bob Dylan's studio albums. I'm ready to hit the ground running again, so let's get to it. We are now at number 35. And coming in at 35 on my ranking of Bob Dylan's studio albums is 1970s Self-Portrait. This finds our man in the Nashville skyline singing mode with many covers on a double album, a few original songs, and once again, what I would consider kind of a hodgepodge pick and pull of tracks from the time. He recently had a bootleg series release, another self-portrait, that has been very well reviewed and I've enjoyed. I don't have it yet on vinyl. I haven't completed the bootleg series yet. There's a few of those that are out of print and very expensive now on the old Discogs, etc. But and there's been a lot of think pieces, and that maybe this time was more interesting than this album that initially was pretty panned and slammed by reviewers. I think it works that way great in the bootleg series as far as like a reflection of where Bob was at in his career at the time, and like a pick and pull where you can choose interesting tracks. It also includes, some songs from New Morning, which we'll find out how much, but later in my list. But yeah, this original release, once again, I'm still in a place where it's not one I return to very often. I think in the ways that the reviewers of that bootleg series work, the album has always kind of worked that way for me. It's a one streaming I'll enjoy because they're handpicked tracks that I just like. They're kind of on their own that you can go in and listen to because there's nothing quite like it that I really do enjoy. But, once again, we're talking about the album here, and as an album, it just doesn't hold together or have any flow to it, in my opinion. And so this is 1970 Self-Portrait. We're going with favorite track. It's Days of 49. Kind of rolling number that I really do enjoy. It's a really cool, remastered, I believe, version. It's definitely different, on the, not sure if it's a different take or just a remastered version of this one that you hear here. There's probably multiple of both, but I do know that there's a Days of 49 on that bootleg series that I really enjoy. But yeah. So at 35, I have Self-Portrait. All right. That's how Bob ran into the 70s. All right. We are going back in Bob's discography. We're going all the way back to his eponymous debut on Columbia Records. 1962, I believe, as Bob Dylan. His eponymous release. Let me check if there's a year down here at the bottom. It says 1962. Yep. A lot of times I like to think 1961, but, doesn't matter. Bob rushed into a studio discovered by John Hammond, the infamous story. You can get a little taste of it in the recent Tim Chalamet movie. I think it's a really great point in time study for Bob. It's like, what if he didn't become the songwriter and go where he went? Kind of like, where would he fit in the folk music world? And this is a good taste. A lot of hard driving blues song. It's actually, I don't know if it was purposeful. I get the idea from all the things I've read, and whatever Bob says about these types of things, you always have to take with a grain of salt, because is he pulling your leg or is he being authentic? I think in my fandom, what I've decided is when he is talking directly about songs and the craft, he's usually pretty earnest, especially when it comes to other people's works. But when he's talking about himself and in bigger picture stuff, who knows what he's saying. But all that's to say is I think it was more of just a point in time. These are the songs he was into playing. And it ends up being, it's really dark. A lot of In My Time of Dying, Man of Constant Sorrow, Gospel Plow, Baby Let Me Follow You Down, the old upbeat happy number, House of the Rising Sun, about dying and prostitution. Yeah. So you got all these covers, and then of course there is his first original song on one of his albums, Song to Woody. And I'm going to be a chalk person, and that's going to be the favorite song I would pick from this album. I did, speaking of the movie, and golly, the name's escaping me, A Complete Unknown. I've seen a lot of people comment on this, and for me, I was surprised by how affecting it was when I went and saw the movie. My daughter went with me, which was really cool. When he meets Woody Guthrie at the mental hospital in New Jersey, and he plays him a song to Woody there, and the Pete Seeger's there, and the scene was very moving. I did tear up in the theater. I think it's just a beautiful human moment, and then also kind of compounded in that is a passing of the torch, and this new carrier goes into a whole nother world. And it's probably my second favorite moment in Dylan's cinema. He's been in a lot of movies, and that's a whole interesting other discussion, like his kind of like flirtation with movies when he's been in or involved with or songs with. But my favorite Bob Dylan moment actually is at the end of Inside Llewyn Davis, which is to me a top tier Coen Brothers film about a folk singer in that time. And there's this whole world and this whole life he's living and all these people are in. And then right at the end of the movie, if you haven't seen it, I won't be a spoiler alert because it doesn't reveal anything about the story, but you just hear in the background and barely catch a glimpse of Bob Dylan and like one of his first times on the stage. And I'm not sure if it's supposed to be the Gaslight or whatever, one of those New York City coffee house locations. And he's the storm, he is the storm that's going to blow all that stuff away, or at least be of the time and representing in, like, he is going to like put that scene on his back and carry it to Newport like you see, and then he's going to, it's just going to be a phase in his career that he's going to move past. And I think that's the best moment as this character's in his life struggle, and just in the background there's this like, that's the storm. So that's really cool. I do revisit this album, so I would say maybe in that case, when I think about it, this is probably another tier step up. I don't letter grades. I don't know about that, but this is one that I do return to because it is of a particular thing. The most recent bootleg series release, Through the Open Window, is Bob's entire early career. It's from his very first recordings as a kid and all that kind of stuff. And it contextualizes this album and, up until right before he explodes. And, it's really great. And I think it does like inform that this is a interesting time in his career. So, yep. So that is, I'm going to get lost in these numbers, but I believe that's number 34. Number 33. We're going to Latter Day Bob, I like to call it. And we had 2016's Fallen Angels. One of his albums from when he just decided, I'm going to release what it ended up being 5 LPs worth of his versions of songs from the American Songbook. Kind of tied to a lot of them were done by the incomparable Frank Sinatra. And this is interesting, in the realm of when you talk about favorite. I haven't got to the other ones, of course, which are Shadows in the Night and then Triplicate. But it's the nature of when this one comes more than the songs on the album, I think, that make it last in that threesome for me, because I found Shadows in the Night really exciting. I don't want to give away too much. It doesn't say my rank, but I just was like, I was a believer in that when it came out. I'm like, this is just astounding. He takes his tour band and the sounds that they create for a lot of these symphonic type of songs, and then Bob Dylan's delivery on it. I think, to me, you know, that first release is that Shadows in the Night is like the super tiresome Bob Dylan can't sing. Not traditionally beautiful, but I think he's a vastly underrated singer as far as getting across the heart and emotion of the song, blah, blah, blah. And, but this one felt repetitious because it followed up after that one, and it was another single LP release of the same types of songs that I didn't felt quite meet the standard of the first one. So I was just like, meh. And so I don't, I do go back to it just because I like all of it, but I would say more in its timing that's why it comes in last of the classic songbook albums that he's released. So yeah, there you go. At where are we at? I'm going to keep forgetting. I think, what was that, 33? Fallen Angels, 2016. Now here comes one that, you know, being in the Bob world, is kind of like a personal favorite of a subset of us weirdos. And it also has a joint album that it's associated with, like Fallen Angels does. And there's a gap in those, as you'll see in my rankings, in my opinion. But we are going with, let me see if I can find the year, 1992's Good As I've Been to You. In the running for arguably the worst album cover that Bob Dylan has. That's just, even the excuse of the 90s doesn't forgive whatever it is going on with this. This is actually as viewers of my channel know, I'm by no means a hi-fi audiophile or anything, but this original master recording, I didn't have this album yet. My whole thing is one great copy of all these albums I want. I don't get multiple presses. I restrict myself in that because I like this idea that I'm going to get one, and when I listen to it now and when I listen to it 20 years from now, that's going to be the same one that I've listened to. It's just something that means something to me. But it is an original master recording and a MoFi, so that's kind of cool. Sounds great to me. But this is Bob Dylan coming out of the 80s and going back to an acoustic route with a lot of traditional folk songs. You got Frankie and Albert and Sitting on Top of the World, Hard Times, Step It Up and Go. And then it closes with Froggy Went A-Courtin', which is really cool. One off in Dylan's catalog, I think. But yeah, there's something about it that misses a little bit for me. I think it might be a little bit of his voice in this one. Once again, this goes back to, I mentioned this in the previous chapter, the imitated over the top Bob Dylan nasally voice thing. It just really is here. It's hard for me not to hear that. So I think that's some of it. But there are some really cool tracks on here. And I missed it on the previous one. The track I would take, I want to make sure I get this because I'm going to do a Spotify playlist a little later. From Fallen Angels is On a Little Street in Singapore. I think that's really great. And I would take the song I would take off Good As I've Been to You for sure is Tomorrow Night. I think that's just really cool. But yeah, there you go. Number 32, Good As I've Been to You. Boom. So we got one more for this go around. This is kind of like I would consider this, I was surprised how low it was because I'm like, I feel like I'm a defender of this album. But, you're starting to get to the point where, like, I'm a Bob Dylan guy, and we're going to start getting to a point where I just, the the rankings, they're not moot. I mean, it's cool, and it does, like, it provides value to me when I think about them, but it does, like, the gaps really tighten up. And the next one on my list at number 31, kicking off the 90s, is Under the Red Sky. And big contradiction to me. I think this is one of Bob Dylan's great album covers. Look at him, man. Bob's all contemplative, sitting on some rocks. There's like some scenery in the background. You're like, An interesting kind of bass concept for the record are like children's stories and nursery rhymes. And there's that energy in kind of the formulation and structure of some of the songs, which I think is really cool. It was produced by Don Was, if I remember right, and had a lot of like big names come in, like Slash, and that type of, there you go. It's like the type of album Slash would play on. But for me, the bad tracks on this are just super weigh it down. It opens, for me, even though I can laugh about it, maybe, I don't know, there's a lot, maybe my least favorite album opener, which that matters. You're like, man, I'm going to put on this record. You can't get past, you know what in your head you're going to hear first, and Wiggle Wiggle. Yes, it's Wiggle Wiggle, and that's funny and all that stuff, but it does just miss. It's one of those albums where I'm like, oh man, if you just don't have that song. And it starts with the title track, Under the Red Sky, which he's revisited often live and is a song that I really like. Well, there we go. And you're already up 4 or 5 notches on this countdown probably, because Wiggle Wiggle really holds it down. But that upbeat Wiggle Wiggle, and then Unbelievable, which was a single from it. Don't care for that. TV talking song on it. Don't love it. But Under the Red Sky and Born in Time off side A. Born in Time is a really elite, important Dylan track. And then on side B, this is a particular, like, when I'm in the mood, only this satisfies me, and that is putting on side 2 of Under the Red Sky. It's got God Knows, which he's returned to live frequently. A song called Handy Dandy and Cats in the Well close it out, and those 3 back to back to back. I love it. It's like hard driving, rocking songs, and I just dig it, especially the song Handy Dandy. And this was an incredible revelation. I saw it on Bob Twitter. I think it was Ray Paget. He does like a Bob Dylan newsletter thing called Flagging Down the Double E's. I think he was the one that pointed this out, but it was an interview with Don Was, and he just off the cuff mentions that there is like a 28 to 30 minute long version of Handy Dandy. And, you know, it's the whole joking thing. I think by all intent and purpose, there's some talk about like, you know, well, we're coming kind of close to the end of the bootleg series for Bob Dylan. But that may be true relative because there's been so many already. But I just got a feeling, if nothing more for copyright purposes, they're going to empty the tank. And I'm one of those suckers. I don't care what it is, I'm going to get it. And man, when there is that's going to be like a 1 LP that's just Wiggle Wiggle, and not Wiggle Wiggle, I mean, oh my God, not Wiggle Wiggle, but Handy Dandy, and like, I don't know, you have to flip the sides or whatever because they can't even like, a 28-minute Handy Dandy sounds incredible to me, and that ought to super highlight my Bob problem that I have. But yeah, this is an album I like to listen to often with the like celebrity guest playing on it. I think like also Stevie Ray Vaughan, and like it just doesn't work. It like takes kind of the guts out of the songs, I think. I don't know if too polished is the term, because sometimes you can be really polished and that works. But for whatever reason, something beyond my level of intellect or capacity to explain, I don't know, the production doesn't work on it. But I do enjoy this album and come back to it. I also think, you know, Bob World art thing, I think it's a really cool back cover too. So they were, you know, whoever was working that had some taste, because that's really well done. But yeah, so we have now gotten from 39 through 31 on Bob Dylan's studio albums, and that'll wrap up this chapter. Thanks for tagging along. For Under the Red Sky, if I had to pick one song, why not? I'll go Handy Dandy. You know, it's Born in Time, but there's actually, on the bootleg series, there's a couple of versions of Born in Time that might be superior. I don't know. You know, like as a fan, you always have to check yourself. Do you just feel that way because you're used to one, and then there's this new thing? But yeah, I'll go with Handy Dandy because I'm thinking about when I do my playlist that that's going to be a fun one that I'm going to get the plug and play and drop in there. So, all right, we're scooting along in Bob World, and you know, I'm excited to do this, and I'm really looking forward after this. Once again, I feel like as far as albums I revisit, that Under the Red Sky is kind of a step up. They're all like slowly stepping up, but I don't know if the next one, but after that, I mean, I'm going to get to, if you're tiering, they're all just S-tier albums to me, and that comes up pretty quickly, so it's kind of fun getting through these. See you for the next one.